Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Teen Talk Central. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about why organization is key during the testing season. I just want to say, I feel like we've all had a moment when we realize the night before a test and our notes are everywhere and we're stressing and studying. And as AP testing season and final season is around the corner and we start studying, I want to give you guys some tips and tricks on how I've personally organized my schedule to have the best outcome during testing season. So first, I feel like you have to choose your system. Personally, I am a physical planner person. I cannot do the digital online planners. I like to write everything and have it physically in my planner. I have a 3-month planner, and it's from Japan, and I just buy a new one every 3 months, so I have like a stock of it. But you can do a 1-year planner, you can do your online digital planner, whatever, it doesn't matter. But as long as you can organize everything, that's the most important part. So I would start off by writing down when all your tests and finals are. I feel like your schedule should already be out by now, or you should have an estimate, especially with AP tests, you already know when they are. And then you basically want to organize by priority. So usually be the first test that's coming up is your highest priority, and the last one will be your lowest one. And also think about difficulty, right? For example, I'm taking AP language, and even though that's before my AP psych test, AP language is not as difficult and there's not as much studying that you can do. So I would rather study for AP psych over AP lang because AP psych is a lot more memorization based. And then you want to create a flexible, structured study plan. So you want to block out review and practice days. So for example, maybe 2 weeks before my AP Psych test, I take a practice test. And then if I, don't do very well, then I know what I need to study on. And if I do decent, I'm like, okay, maybe I can retract the studying a little bit, but continue to study and memorize stuff. Because even if you take the first practice test like 3 weeks in advance and you get a good grade on it, you still want to continue to slowly study because you don't want to forget everything. Because especially when it comes to one of the AP tests or finals with a lot of memorization, you have to continue building and like refining and building up your memory. Next is clearing out your materials. So I would start off with sorting out all my notes. So with most of my classes that I do have finals for, my notes are already pretty organized because I'm kind of more naturally prone to organizing my notes. But if you're not, I would take out all my notes for each one class at a time, and then I would break them down into units and then try to put them in order. For example, if you're taking a history final, try to do chronological order. If you're doing AP Psych, try to do it by module and try to do it by like kind of development stages or whatever works for you. I personally like to use like little sticky notes, and I like to write the dates on them or like units so that it's easy for me to visually see because I'm a very like visual person. Next, I would create some sort of cheat sheet or like like a summary page for quick reviews that you can kind of check throughout your studying sessions, but try to learn to not rely on it because you don't want to end up relying on certain things. And it's really important that you guys know to kind of be sure to use it in the appropriate ways, because if you abuse that cheat sheet then when it's testing time and you don't get that, you're not going to be able to actually take the test in a proper way. And then also just use folders, and if you're doing a lot of your notes on digital platforms like Notability, Google Docs, whatever, really try to organize it there. I feel like it's super easy to organize your notes into folders and stuff. And then next, the actual studying portion, I would use the 15-minute rule. So I would spend at least 15 minutes each day tidying up your study space, and then kind of resetting every day so that you kind of go into the study with a new mindset. And then also check in with your plan, do weekly reviews, and just make sure that everything that you are doing is up to par and what you're hoping to be able to accomplish. And then I personally like to have study buddies or people that can keep you accountable. So if someone's did you get this done? You'll be oh, I haven't yet. Check back in on me in 30 minutes and I'll have it done. There's someone that you can kind of it could be a friend or a classmate, just someone who you can keep each other accountable as well. So you can be hey, have you done this and this? Which I think it's just really nice to have someone that can kind of you can bounce off each other. And then organization in general, it just really reduces your anxiety. Like if you have an organized like living space and like you have organized like notes and everything, and you have an organized schedule, it can really allow you to feel less pressure, and you don't have to kind of think of your life as a mess, and you should maybe have less anxiety about specifically testing and like what you're kind of how much you know and the knowledge that you have. Also bring small rewards into your study schedule. So for example, if you study 3 modules for AP Psych, then you can maybe get yourself some frozen yogurt or whatever, like reward yourself with some treat like every few somethings, so that you have a motivation to still do it, and maybe you realize that, oh, okay, I can go a bit longer, and then I'll give myself a bigger reward instead of like 3 small rewards. That's personally what I'll probably do. And that's just really nice because you have something to look forward to after testing. Also, a big tip I have is progress over perfection. So even if you get a 9 out of 10 on a practice quiz, don't try to retake that same quiz 50 times. Personally, it's not worth it, because if in the grand scheme of things, if you are, for example, taking an AP test, missing one question out of, I think in AP Psych it's like 70 multiple choice, it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. So try to kind of get a bulk of your studying done in good chunks, and then if you still have time left over at the end when you're kind of in the maybe last couple days of studying, then you can kind of go back and be like, okay, like what are like the 1 or 2 questions that I missed? And obviously the best scenario is that you just get a 100 on everything and like you're super knowledgeable and everything, but for some people that's just not 100% possible, and that is okay. So just think more about the big general ideas than the small ones. So my kind of quick thing that I've been doing personally is that I have written every single exam in my schedule book, and I have gone backwards, and I've said, okay, like this week I'm gonna like relearn this module, or this week I'm gonna study this module, because personally my school ends before Memorial Day, so our finals are like the week before Memorial Day, and I've decided that like, okay, my last AP test is on May 16th, and from May 16th to May 19th is like basically all the finals study time. And personally, the finals that I do have are for physics, and then for math, and then I think I have like 1 or 2 more, but most of the classes I'm actually taking, the finals shouldn't be that bad. And then some of my other classes are just projects. So I've kind of like scheduled out when I'm going to start studying for finals versus when I'm starting for AP tests. And my spring break is this week, which means I'm going to spend a majority of my spring break also studying for my AP Psych final, because that is just like pure memorization and like it's just a bunch of grinding. So that should be a lot of fun. You guys should let us know in the comments if you guys are in testing season or are getting ready for testing season, and what tests are you taking, what AP tests are you taking. And yeah, if you guys kind of ever feel stressed or anything, you can reach out. And I just want you guys to know, organization isn't about being perfect. It's about making life easier for you and you only. Your organization habits can be seen as like messy for other people, but as long as it works for you, that's all that matters. Yeah. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, you should definitely follow the podcast on whatever streaming platform you're listening on. And you guys should share it with a friend. And, be like, hey, like, I've heard this on the podcast, like, we should become study buddies, or you could be my accountability partner. And yeah, that should be a lot of fun. And I hope everyone has a really good rest of the week. If you're on spring break like I am, then have an amazing spring break. And if you're still in school, have fun, study hard. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this week's episode, definitely share it with a friend. And if you guys have any podcast ideas or requests, you should go to our Instagram at Teen Talk Central, where we have a little highlight for episode requests. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I will see you guys in our next episode. Bye. Love you guys.